Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Final Whistle podcast. As always, I'm joined by Daniel Fears. How are you, Dan?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
I'm good, thank you as well. Now, today we are going to be giving a general view over the 2021 championship season, just giving our opinions on the teams, and then at the end of the episode, we'll give you a final prediction of how the table will look. So if we start off in an alphabetical order, that puts Barnsley at the top. What do you think their season's going to hold?
I think it's going to be a real struggle for them. I can't see them getting many points next season. They definitely need to do some business this year. Do you agree?
Yeah, I think that Barnsley were very lucky to stay up last season. They did put in some good performances in the last few games, which, fair enough. Well done to them. They did well there. But as you say, I think that it's going to be a tough year for them. Whether they can stay up, I think they might be able to do it. But they've just got to keep the mentality that they had at the end of this just gone season to try and keep them up. They've had an interesting few years coming up and down between League One and the Championship, but it's going to be a tough season. They've got to keep hold of some of the players like Alex Mowat and Paulie Woodrow, etc., just so they can reinforce the Championship level. Now, another team next down in the ladder of Championship teams, Birmingham City. They've had an interesting season in terms of managers. Obviously, they've just appointed Aitor Karanka. I think it's going to be an interesting year for them, settling into his style of play. Obviously, when he was at Forest, the supporters loved him, but he didn't like interference from the board, and his style of play was nice. It was a bit boring at times, but I think Birmingham fans would take boring to, get a good steady finish. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely. I think that there'll be a team that aren't challenging for playoffs, but I don't think they're going to be fighting to stay up. They'll be somewhere in that mid-table, I reckon. So, Blackburn, they've got obviously Bradley Dack, who was vital for them this season. And then he had the awful injury, which taken him out. Where can you see them finishing next season?
I think, like Birmingham, they're going to have an average mid-table finish. They're not going to be challenging for promotion. They're just a bit too good, I feel, to be dragged down into a relegation battle. If Bradley Dack can stay fit and players like Ben Brereton, etc., in their squad can play well, then there's no reason why they can't secure a top half finish. But they're going to have to put the effort in, just like Birmingham. They're going to have to put effort in to secure results, because after the restart they were a bit sloppy at times. What do you think their season will be like?
I totally agree with what you're saying. I think there'll be a mid-table side. I think they may make a sudden push for the playoffs, but I think they'll just drop out of it, a bit like what they did this year.
Now, next up on the list, Bournemouth. Obviously, they've just come down from the Premier League. And obviously Eddie Howe departing as well, and the appointment of his ex-assistant manager now. So how do you see their season going? Obviously, they've had a strong squad in the Premier League, but a few of them have left. What do you think their season will be like?
I think it's going to be a very strange season for them. I think they're going to be in the playoffs, but they need to sign a new centre-back because Nathan Ake's gone now. Supposedly they're going to sell Callum Wilson as well. And I just can't see them challenging if they sell both of them. They certainly need a decent centre-back and a striker.
Well, there's been, as you said, obviously Ake going, and there's a few other big names that have left the club. I will just bring it up here, see if I can find it. Give me a second. But I agree, they're going to have a strong go at the playoffs. I wouldn't be surprised if they do go up. But they're going to have to put a lot of effort in. They're going to have a strong dismantle of the squad, but I think that their fans can push them on. So it was the captain Simon Francis and vice captain Andrew Sermon have both left the club. Now those are both very big names in that Bournemouth squad. How deeply do you think those departures will affect the club?
I think it will affect them massively. In my opinion, Nathan Ake was probably the best centre back in the. He would be the best centre back in the Championship, and then I'd say he's probably in the top 3 for the Premier League.
Difficult season for them, but getting in the playoff area. Now, another team who suffered playoff heartache was Brentford, obviously losing in the playoff final to Fulham. They've obviously moved stadiums for this coming season to the new Brentford Community Stadium. How do you think that they'll be able to bounce back? Will they be in the playoffs again, or do you think they can get that top 2 that they were so close to achieving?
I think they'll get it if they keep Ollie Watkins and Saeed Benrahma, but supposedly Villa have put in a 50-60 million bid in for them. But if they sell them I can't see them challenging, but it will be typical Brentford if they sell them.
Yeah, well, due to that playoff final loss, a clause was triggered in Ollie Watkins' contract or deal, which meant he could leave the club for 18 million if the money was paid for. If I was a Premier League club, I'd go and get him snapped up because he's quality. Whether he'll be able to get up to the Premier League, we'll have to wait and see. But I agree with you there. Benrahma and Watkins have been the soul of the Brentford team. If they can keep them, then I do feel that they'll be pushing for automatics. Another team down the list was still in the B because there's so many teams in the Championship starting with B. But to a different type of side, Bristol City had a big slip up after the restart in the playoffs. Do you think they can get back up to that level in this new season?
No, I can't see them getting back up to the level. They don't have a deadly striker, which they used to have, and every Championship team needs a deadly striker, and I can't see them having one at the minute.
Yeah, well, you could disagree with that if you were Chris Kamara, because they've got Famara Dadru, which he brilliantly pronounced on Sky.
Decent strike from Famara Dadru.
If the squad can get a bit of power behind them, I think they could push for the playoffs, but they've obviously just appointed a new manager I am not brilliantly familiar with. I can't even remember his name, which is brilliant. Obviously, Lee Johnson leaving at the end of this season after many years at the club, trying to get them into the Premier League and failing each time. Now, the next one down the list, Cardiff City. What do you make of them?
I think they've been really good under Neil Harris. I think they've been really organised, and I can see them getting playoffs next season.
Well, they were obviously in the playoffs at the end of this season, but couldn't make it past the semi-final leg. They've got a strong few players in there, but they've got a few aging ones as well. Obviously, Bamba and Peterson or something like that. It's getting a bit old. Do you feel that they might suffer from that aging squad?
Well, they just need to bring in a couple of youngsters because these older players will just give experience to the younger ones. And if they've got a few players coming through the academy, but that's very rare for a team like Cardiff, they usually just go out and buy them. I can see them progressing.
Now, another one on the list, newly promoted to the Championship after many years, Coventry City. They're going to be playing their games at Birmingham St Andrews, meaning they're going to having home and away legs at the same stadium, whilst playing Birmingham. What do you think they'll be able to stay in this league, or do you reckon they'll be heading straight back down to League One?
Unless they get some business done, I can see them heading straight back down to League One. I couldn't be able to name you one of their players, so sums it up.
They've they've obviously got to bring in a lot of championship experience to be able to compete in this league. That we've seen many teams that have come up and, haven't had that bit of experience and quality to keep them up. Barnsley have kind of shown over the years of them coming up, they've gradually got the players that they've needed, and the youngsters have developed. They've got a terrifically young squad at Barnsley, and that could be something that Coventry might need to look to. But a bit of a different situation from Coventry is Derby County. They've had a mixed season with Philip Cocu this year. Obviously, they had a strong start to the year. Wayne Rooney obviously came in at January, and then they kind of nearly got playoffs, but it didn't happen. Do you think they might be able to secure the top 6 this coming year?
If they have Rooney, absolutely, because I think he just adds so much more to them. He's just got the brains, and I think that's what a side like Derby needed, because they've got a very young squad, and he just kind of balances out the age. And he's a brilliant captain for them.
He hasn't had the impact that many were thought he'd had, but he has improved the squad. He'll be a great mentor for Louis Sibley. As much as it pains me to say, I think Derby County might do quite well next year. Next on the list, Huddersfield Town. What are your thoughts with them?
They're a very strange side. You watch them one week and they go and beat a side like Fulham or a big side, and then they'll go and lose to someone like Luton or somebody like that. So I could see them just missing out on relegation.
Well, that is a fair point. I think you could say it to most teams in the Championship, really, because this league is ridiculously crazy. They are an interesting side, as you said. They've got a new manager, Spanish, and he's brought in a few of his backroom staff. Whether they can get a different style of play to the way that the Cowley brothers were trying to set up Huddersfield, which didn't really work. They got a few results, but they weren't good. They were They were a bit of cheats. They would try and get fouls and get away with fouls and diving, and they just weren't the right vision for the club. But I agree with you; they're going to be lower mid-table side. Now, a team that might be further down them, Luton, as you said. Obviously, many teams have suffered a bit of a poor result, but then teams like Brentford have managed to go and hammer them. Do you think that they're going to have another season in the Championship strongly, or do you think that this is going to be the year they go down?
I think it's going to be the year they go down, unless they again bring in some signings. But I can't see them very active on the market at the minute. So I think it's going to be a real struggle for them to stay up this season. Do you agree?
I agree there. When I've been looking at the teams, they're one of the ones I'm putting in the relegation spots. They very, very luckily missed out this last season on relegation, and I think they are going to be struggling a lot unless they bring in players, like you said, that have got enough quality and experience to compete in the league, which they haven't done so far. They are going to struggle. Now, a team that has been taken over management-wise by Neil Warnock is Middlesbrough. They, again, like Huddersfield, in my opinion, they're a bit of a strange side. They did have those Premier League years, but that was a bit of a while ago. Do you think they might be a return to the Premier League, or do you think that they're going to be another comfortable Championship side?
With Neil Warnock as manager, I think they'll be a very comfortable side. I think he's a world-class manager, and he can keep any team up. And I reckon they could be making a late push for playoffs.
They've got obviously some very strong players. Son Belonga in there. They have lost George Friend, who was their strong left back. They've been there for a long time. His contract was up, and he's followed former manager Aitor Karanka to Birmingham. So that is a bit of a loss for them. Do you feel that, obviously, as you said there, that they could get that late push for playoffs? Do you feel, though, that they could challenge in the playoffs, or would you think they'd be more like Cardiff this season, who kind of just got swept over by the bigger teams?
I think they'll get swept over. I can't see them going up from the playoffs, but I can see them getting into it.
Millwall. They are a very, very annoying team to face because they're not top 6 quality and they're not relegation quality, but they are definitely one of the hardest teams to play in the Championship because of the quality of players they have. Obviously, Jake Cooper and then Jed Wallace in attack. Do you think this might be a season where they can push for the top?
I think this will be a really difficult season for them if there's no fans, because there's something about Millwall at the Den with all the fans really close to the pitch, shouting at them, etc. Whereas if that's the case, I can absolutely see them challenging again for playoffs. But if it isn't, I can't see them challenging at all.
Well, the current guidance that's being put out is that they reckon stadiums will be 25% capacity, which is kind of not worth having, in my opinion. They're not allowed to sing, supposedly, so that's a bit of a pointless one unless they're fully spaced out and they are able to. But I agree, they're one of those sides that need the atmosphere, that need their fans to, throw bricks at each other because they're just one of those weird clubs in England that seem to just hover about for a bit. Another side relegated from the Premier League is Norwich City, having an abysmal season this year in the Premiership. And it was just embarrassing to watch the likes of, Timu Pukki, who was brilliant in the Championship 2 seasons ago. And then coming into the Premier League, he had a bit of a good start, but not good enough. What are your thoughts on Norwich?
It's going to be, I think it will be decided by whether they sell Max Aarons or not, and Jamal Lewis and Pukki. Because if they have them free, I can see them going straight back up. But if they don't, I can't see them even getting playoffs. So they're so vital for them.
It's going to be an interesting year for Daniel Farke as well as manager. I think if he's not in a good position by Christmas, I think he'll not have a job. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely, I can't see him having a job at Christmas if he's not in the top 6 or even I'd say the top 2. So next up, your beloved Forest.
This season's feeling good. I said that last year and watch what happened there, but that was a bad January window. If you look at the signings we've made only made 3 in the space of a week. Jack Colback, who is a brilliant player, he's been at us twice on loan, has got a lot of passion. I think he's coming in and he's going to replace Ben Watson because he's out of contract. But then the next one, Tyler Blackett from Reading, obviously. He seems good from what many Reading fans have said. And then the big one, Lyle Taylor, coming again from Charlton, 11 goals in 22 appearances last season, and all 3 players are on a free transfer. So that is brilliant business, and many Forest fans are delighted with it. I think this year we can really push for it. Grabban and Lyle Taylor up top, that is going to be a lethal force. You better be worried.
I'm putting you lot as favourites to go up. I can't see how teams are going to stop Lewis Grabban and Lyle Taylor. I think they're the perfect combo because one's hold the ball up and then while Lyle Taylor runs in behind. But it depends if you lot change your formation to 2 strikers up top.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of discussion going about whether we change to more of like a 5-3-2, so we've got Grabban and Taylor up top, or we keep the formation we've got. As this season, the EFL have confirmed they haven't given out the fixtures, but there's going to be 13 midweek fixtures. So I think having the one up top could still work. So then we've got a fresh player every other game up top. I can't believe we managed to pull Lyle Taylor off. We were linked with him at the start of the window, and then it seemed like he was going up to Scotland, but that deal kind of disappeared off. Completed a medical and signed a 3-year deal within a matter of days. So brilliant quality. In my opinion, we need to keep Matty Cash and Joe Worrell because that's going to be a hard one, and cement a strong squad coming into the new season. But I could talk for another 20 minutes about that. But Preston North End are the next team. They're a very championship side, in my opinion. They've not got much quality. I'm not trying to be offensive to them, but they don't. But they're too good to go down, and they're a bit like Millwall. Could you see them getting that mid-table finish?
Yeah, I can't see them going down, but I can't see them giving a push to playoffs. That Donaldson's a quality player for them, and he's always the player I'm always like, he can score a goal or something, he can change a game.
I don't like playing Preston because they're one of the teams that on paper you should beat, but they always seem to come at you and get an early goal and be able to keep it. Now, another team who been in the Championship for a while, very, very close to going down most seasons, in Queen's Park Rangers, QPR, obviously. Mark Warburton is the current manager there. He's done quite a good job, to be fair, with the players that he's got. He's obviously got brilliant players in Asai Samuel. Do you think that this season they're going to be able to escape that relegation battle, or do you think they're going to be there again?
I think there's weaker teams than them, but I think they'll be fighting to stay up again.
Yeah, they're an interesting one because they have got these brilliant players, but then the rest of the squad, I think, seems to let them down a bit. They're a weird one because you can easily batter them in one game of the season, and they come back and they can beat you. So we'll have to see what comes out of that. Now, we've already discussed my team, Forest. We're coming to your team, Reading. What do you make of their chances this year?
I think they'll be mid-table, but I think they'll just miss out on playoffs. I can't see them getting playoffs just because they need to make a few more signings. They're doing a total rebuild. They've got rid of 6 players already this transfer window, brought in 1. And yeah.
Well, I agree. I can see them coming about 10th, around that bit. I think many Reading fans would be happy with that, to be honest. Obviously, as you said, 6 out. Obviously, Blackett's one of them. Gunter, McCleary, who I'm surprised you've let Gunter go. I could say, McCleary's a bit past it, but Gunter is a bit good player in your side, but he's aging, so it's fair enough. I think your season could be defined if you can get Ajaria, because if you can get him, then you're definitely going to be around that 10th spot. Whereas if you don't, your team kind of lacks a bit of creativity, and they're not really that quality. But if you can get Ajaria, I think
Swifty's a big part of it as well.
He's been linked with moves to the Premier League, Sheffield United, who seem to grab up any talent in the Championship they want. They're always linked with everyone. But we'll have to see, and I think I agree with you. They could be around the higher mid-table, but they're not good enough for the Championship playoffs. Now, a team completely at the opposite end of the table, in my opinion, Rotherham United. They never seem to do very well in the Championship. Is it going to be another season of horror for them?
Yeah, I can see them finishing 24th. Can't see them finishing any higher.
They just don't seem to ever have a squad capable of getting results at this level. They seem to have a very League One squad, and anyone they do bring in, they bring in probably like the Gareth McClearys, who are way past it, but they're free and they don't have a lot of money, so they try and bring in what they can. So it will be a tough season for the fans there. Now, one team who caused a bit of controversy with the EFL this year is Sheffield Wednesday. They're obviously going to be starting this coming season with minus 12 points due to financial fair play. Many thought they should have been put on at the end of this season. The EFL wanted that, but it didn't happen. Do you think Sheffield Wednesday can get up to mid-table? Obviously, it's only 12 points.
I think they'll be just missing out because of the 12-point deduction of relegation, because I can't see them giving a push now, because 12 points is quite a big margin to start off with. players are going to be a bit sort of demotivated having their 12-point deduction. So I can't see them getting off to a good start, but I can see them getting off to a good start around Christmas time.
They've had players on loan this season, like Jacob Murphy from Newcastle, who's had links to Forest. So I've had a look into him, and seeing him playing for Sheffield Wednesday this season, he's been one of the key players. Whether he'll go back, I highly doubt it. Why would you go to a team that's got minus 12 points unless you really love the club? It's going to be a tough one for them. One club that's had a tough season this year, but they might be on the rise under Michael O'Neill, Stoke City. What do you think this season has in store for them?
I think they're a very strange side. I could possibly see them getting playoffs actually this season though, but I can't see them winning it because they've got a few good players. Jack Butland obviously being one of them, but supposedly there's rumours that he wants to leave. So if they get rid of him, I can't see them doing much.
Well, obviously, Butland's been at the club for years and years. He's probably got past his bit of where he was the high potential. He was going to be this next big England goalkeeper, but then he went down with Stoke and no one came in and bought him. It's thought that he might be off this summer, but for half the price that he would have done in the previous summer. I agree with you. They need Jack Butland to keep them up. They've got a squad of mediocre players. But I think the work that O'Neill's done at Stoke has been pretty good. He obviously got them up from near relegation, got them to a bit of a safe spot. But they're going to have an interesting year, as you said, based on whether Butland stays. Now, another team, Swansea City, obviously secured playoffs even. But a lot of their squad are either on loan or they're probably going to leave. Ryan Brewster was a great player for them on loan from Liverpool. Could you see him returning to help them get a playoff place again?
I can't see him returning. I think he'll be looking at one of the lower Premier League teams to go out on loan to. Because I don't think he's good enough to get in the Liverpool side yet, but he can start scoring goals in a low league Premier League team. I can absolutely see him in the future getting in this Liverpool side.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I don't think Swansea will get him back, and I think that they're going to pay the penalty on that. They're going to probably finish around 9th or 10th-ish, but they might get out to the playoffs. We never know. Now, Watford obviously come down this season, sacking Nigel Pearson with 2 games to go. Very strange. They've just brought in their new manager. I think it's Vladimir Ivic or something like that. I'm not totally sure on his surname, but who's managed that in Greece. He's not a particularly well-known manager, but neither was Lamucci when he came into Forest, so we can't judge him. Do you think that Watford are going to be one of those clubs that are going straight back up?
I can't see them going straight back up, but they're one of these teams that I never knew how they were able to stay up in the Premier League because they only had Deulofeu. And I think that it's going to really hit them that they're down in the Championship, and I just can't see them. I think they'll be fighting more to stay up than to go up.
I totally agree with that. Now, a team that could be totally going down with Rotherham in our thoughts, Wycombe Wanderers, but they might have the ability to push up. Obviously, Akinfenwa's side, so who knows what he's going to do in the Championship, whether he'll be able to be a beast still. I think they're one of the clubs that need to get a few good names in, good free players maybe, or cheap ones that have played in the Championship, and that could keep them, around 21st-ish, just surviving. Could you see that happening?
I could. I really like Wycombe. I think they're a really well-organised team, and I'm just looking forward to seeing Akinfenwa, to be honest.
Yeah. How much he's actually going to get to play will be interesting because obviously quite old, whether he'll be able to function in the Championship, but he'll come on against someone big and do something and everyone will go crazy for him.
Yeah.
That's all the teams in the championship. Thank you so much for listening. It's goodbye from me.
And goodbye from me.
Thank you for listening. That was The Final Whistle.